Hello, I started as vicar at Tardebigge and Webheath, or Webheath and Tardebigge, in 2013, and at that time I knew very, very little about the area, about the congregations, and about what teaching we had or hadn't had up to that time. And so it was quite surprising in the one of my first sermons at Webheath, I simply threw out the line, and there's nothing incompatible between science and Christianity. And a voice spontaneously came from somewhere in the congregation. I knew it. And you know, Christians can get bombarded with inaccurate statements about their faith from people who don't actually hold to the faith. And one of which is that science has disproved religion. Science is not capable of disproving Christianity, certainly not of disproving the existence of God, unless it measures in a very different way from the way in which we're capable of measuring at the moment. And if there's one thing that recent discoveries in science have told us, it's how little we know rather than how much we know. God is a multidimensional being that is outside of time and space as we know it, and yet within it. So God sees all times at the same time. He's perceiving in many different ways each individual all at the same time. And he knows each one of us. We believe ourselves to be individually loved by God. And yet this is a God big enough to handle all the population of the world. 8 billion or however many there are of us now. It's quite an extraordinary being. And it's not a being that's going to be detectable on a radar. It's not a being which is going to be wandering around as with flesh and blood, as an old man with a white beard, or any other picture that you might have of God in your mind. Somebody proposed at some point that God was kind of the God in the gaps. So in the gaps of our human knowledge there was God. And the problem with that is, of course, that as science fills the gaps, then you find you have no God. But God is in all things. And we're actually told that all things hold together in him. In other words, this is the creator of the universe. Now, when we think about the sheer size and dimensions of the universe, again, we're looking at a being which is incredibly different from ourselves. A God who's not merely initiated however the universe came into being, and we usually summarize it in the terms of the Big Bang. But this is a God who has a particular concern for one particular small rock, which has somehow developed in a particular and unique manner, called Earth. It's where we are. Yet we know in the whole great span of the existence of the Earth, never mind the existence of the universe, that we are this tiny, tiny speck. And each one of us, in comparison to the greatness of the universe, is pretty insignificant. And God gives us a significance way above any value that humanity can give to itself. Is God there? Well, Christians can be a little bit too keen to prove things, because we're told that the righteous will live by faith. Faith is about being certain of what we cannot see. God is spirit, and therefore he can't be seen. God is spirit, and therefore he can't be measured. In fact, the most fundamental part of our being is spirit, and that can't be measured. That's the bit above and beyond everything else that is made in the image of God. That's that part of us that will be with God forever, and not this physical flesh. Now, how does science work in relation to this? Well, all that I've established in the last 5 minutes is that God is not measurable. If he's not measurable by science, he certainly can't be disproved or proved, because we don't have a way of measuring whether or not he's there or not. Next time, let's look a bit further at this.